All right, here we go. Hello, everybody. See if we get says we're live. Here we go. All right, welcome to everyone. Tonight, I am so blessed. Our group is blessed to have Steve Manchester, Massachusetts native like me, which is fantastic, and over 20 novels,
Right.
best-selling, award-winning, from young reader books to 80s books to tearjerker books, and even a book about your time in the military. So,
Right.
welcome. We're so happy to have you here.
Kristen, thank you so much. I really appreciate being here.
I'm super excited. So, we're going to talk about a couple of different, well, a lot of your books tonight.
Yeah, right.
We're going to talk about the menu. I'd like to talk about your young reader series. And then I'm going to talk about the 80s
Awesome.
because boy, did I love bread bags and bullies. It brought me right back to being a teenager. And
Right.
then tonight I was eating dinner. I think a Massachusetts staple. I made meatloaf and mac and cheese, something that my mom used to make when I was a kid. My
Yep.
girlfriend was here and she said, "Do you remember this?" Because we were talking about your book, and she showed me a picture of Cassette Man.
Oh,
Do you
wow.
do you remember
Yes.
Cassette Man?
Yeah.
She thinks she has one of the cassettes.
Really?
She
Wow.
saves everything. Yeah. So anyway, those are the things we're going to talk about.
Awesome.
So let's start with the menu because this time of year, I think um, it's so important of a read. The holidays are hard for people, and
Right.
sometimes with the things going on in the world, between wars and politics and all those kinds of things, when I looked at the menu, I was like, everybody says it's soul awakening, and all of the reviews for it. But what I really found important in the menu was that the inspiration and that whole idea of everybody has a different choice in the menu,
Right.
and that in itself is inspirational, and to remember that we don't always have the same things on our path, and we're not alone in it, which is I love that idea. So talk to me a little bit about the menu and where that came from and how it got started and
Yeah. So let me just back up a little bit, Kristen. So when I was a kid, my grandfather was an amazing storyteller, right? He never put pen to paper, and his nickname was Swamp Yankee, right? So we come from Westport, Massachusetts, in the
yeah.
woods, right? So this Swamp Yankee, at the foot of his rocking chair, you couldn't tell if he was telling the truth, if he was making it up. It didn't matter. He was a storyteller, and I didn't realize at the time he had planted a seed in me. In 1990 through 91, I actually was with the United States Army 7th Corps. We went into Iraq during the Ground War with Saddam Hussein. And to make an incredibly long story short, I ended up flipping a Humvee end
Mm.
over end in the southern tip of Iraq. We were
Oh,
probably maybe
wow.
60 miles, yeah, north of Saudi Arabia. And the problem with that was the antenna was buried, so I couldn't call in for a medevac. And here's a wink for you. My call sign in the Gulf War was Swamp Yankee, right, for my
Ah,
grandpa. So it was
a
cool.
little
But
protection there.
exactly. But we were. It was my platoon sergeant and I, and we hit a sandstorm. I ended up flipping the Humvee by hitting a boulder with the right front tire and basically smashed the roof. I got thrown out of the
Oh,
vehicle,
wow.
and we were stranded for about 3 hours. And it was a turning point in my life, right? It was definitely a crossroad where it was like, not if, but when I get home, I'm going to chase my dream down. I'm going to become a published author, right? And
Right.
a lot of people don't realize how difficult this business is. I mean, the rejection rate hovers around 97%. It's rough, right? And it takes a long
Yeah.
time to get in. Um, but anyway, most books take me about 6 to 9 months to write. The menu took me close to 10 years
Oh, wow.
because I wanted to get it right. It was a book about, I don't think you can ever overcome fear of death. But for my kids, what I wanted to show them was, we're kind of all in this together, right? You don't worry about it coming in. Don't worry about it leaving. I believe we're all connected. I'm a man of, great faith. I'm not the most religious person, but I'm a man of great faith.
Right.
And I believe we are connected. And there's a tagline on the front of the book, the menu, that says, "You are never alone," right? Not ever. And where that comes from is the Gulf War, right? So for 3 hours, and probably the only time in my life I've ever felt completely alone, was in the Gulf War. So this is kind of an underlying thread for a lot of my books, but with the menu more so than others. I mean, it's we really go to the deep end of the pool with this book.
Yeah, I can't even imagine that because I had friends that were over there, but what a scary situation to be
Yeah,
in and harrowing and wondering,
yeah, it was
like,
life changing, life changing,
but
and
when in all reality, like, faith gets you through, you
sure it
know?
does,
I like that
absolutely.
you were thinking, "When I get home, I'm going to get home," and
Right, right.
getting back, and, um, it's totally life-changing. My dad's a Vietnam vet, and I know how that affects everybody, and
Sure.
so it's interesting that you have this background in the military,
Yeah,
background in law enforcement, and yet
right.
you write these books that are geared really towards women,
They
I
are.
think, right?
Absolutely, they are.
And are about love and romance and um, hope and faith, and
Right.
that's pretty great.
Yeah, I think, one of the blessings I've been given is I'm very, very comfortable in my own skin, right? So I wrote a book on the prison system. I wrote a book on, the Gulf War. And once I
Right?
exhausted my knowledge of, quote unquote nonfiction, in order for me to keep going, I had to write fiction. So I write male perspective to a female audience, right? Kind of Mitch Albom, Nicholas Sparks.
Yeah.
Um, but if I'm not making somebody laugh or cry, then it's not worth my time to
Yeah.
put pen to paper, right?
Well, isn't that a great book, right? Has
Right,
to have
right.
some kind of emotion in it, right?
You do. You absolutely do.
And that's where I think the love of reading and books and all of that come in all reality.
Yeah,
And you have a lot of books, and you
yeah.
have a new one coming out too as well, right?
I do. We just finished, and I worked with a co-author on this out of Mobile, Alabama, and we worked on a book called "You Will Be Peter." So he essentially commissioned me to write a historical biographical novel on Saint Peter. So
Ah,
not from the religious point of view, but
right.
what was it really like to walk, with Christ for those 3.5 years on the mission? And honestly, Kristen, I can't even explain the research that went into this. I mean, we were studying antiquated maps and breaking the Gospels down, and it was amazing. But I think the book came out, really good, and I'm excited about it. I think it's gonna, touch a lot of people.
When does that come out?
It's with the agent now, so he's looking for the right house. My guess is it'll be out probably next year, and
Oh,
toward
that's
the end of
exciting.
next year. Yeah,
That sounds great.
yeah.
I like that, historical piece of it, but yet the not also not into that whole tough religion, because
No,
then
no,
it's
no, no.
a
Right.
wider audience
It
too.
is. It is. And
Um,
we're not there to recruit, right? I'm a storyteller, so I'm telling a
yeah,
story like, what did they eat? What was the political context like at the time, right? So to kind of put you
right.
there in Jerusalem at that point, it's very eye opening, and it's an amazing character, this Peter, because he's a knucklehead like the rest of us, right? He doesn't get it until the end anyway, right? But he's got the
Right.
faith of a child, so that's what intrigued me. And we kind of jump right into it, but I'm glad that we did it.
Oh, I can't wait to read it.
Thank you.
So let's go back to the menu a little bit,
Yes.
because I just started reading it and
Mm,
it sucked me in from the beginning. And
thank
that's
you.
one thing I really like about your writing, because even with bread bags and bullies, I was like right there.
Good.
So can you read a little bit for us?
Yes, yes, I would love to. So again, this is, people always ask, what's your favorite book? And for me, it's the one I'm working on now, right? Because I love the process. But if
Right.
I'm really being honest, this has been the book for me, right? I've been writing for 30 years, and once I finished this, I kind of knew, this is
It,
it, right? So,
yeah, that's
all
great.
right. So, and literally, I think probably the best place to start is the beginning. So, this is chapter one. It's just a couple pages, but here we go. It was eternal dawn. Two silhouettes stood in the soft light of a cloud. Through the veil of fog, the taller shadow handed the other a thin book and patted him on the shoulder. The golden boss burgundy cover was the approximate size of a menu. Amid the faint sound of birds chirping and a whistling wind, the silhouettes remained faceless. Gently and lovingly, God wrapped his arm around Finn's shoulder. This is your life. Order whatever you wish, but keep in mind, whatever you choose to taste, you have to finish. He told Finn before sending him into the world. Nodding anxiously, Finn started flipping through the menu. As he read, God continued in a serious whisper. And you should also know that others have made their own choices. There was a pause. Choices that are different from those you'll pick. I understand, Finn replied, though there was no way he ever could. As he scanned all the possibilities within the giant menu, his excitement took over. Whatever I wish, he asked. The tall silhouette nodded. Yes. I want the love of family and friends, Finn read from the menu. That's fine, God interrupted, but first, your gender. I don't follow you. The spirit has no gender, but on Earth you must either be a man or a woman. Which will it be? A man, Finn quickly announced. I want to be a good man. He nodded in confirmation. A good man, God echoed, returning the nod. That's a wonderful start. I love poetry, Finn hurried, and I'd also like to create or design things. God smiled. I've always loved the act of creation myself. And it's important that I know compassion, Finn added. It's yours, but not before experiencing pain and suffering, God answered. Glancing up at his father, Finn gave it some thought. Sure, I'll accept pain and suffering for compassion. God nodded. I also wish to have commitment and wisdom and good choices, Finn, but not before conquering trials and tribulations. Finn looked up from the menu again. And courage, he asked, after overcoming fear. Honor, once you have faced shame. Success, Finn asked. Much failure, God answered. Finn stared at his master before closing the book and handing it back. I can't have any of the good without the bad, can I? Sure, it's called love, and no matter what you do, I'll always love you. God promised. Pretty clever design, don't you think? Finn nodded. God squeezed Finn's shoulder with his great hand. You're given one life, Finn, and as my child, you inherit all things. Everything is yours. Don't you want to experience all that I've created and experience everything that you'll create yourself? I do, Finn responded robustly. Very well, then. You shall taste it all.
I love that. I actually read that part of the chapter several times because then I thought, is that really how we start out?
Right.
You
Yeah,
know,
I wonder too.
do we get to
Right.
choose it? You
Right.
know, and then our path. And I think sometimes we forget, that we have these choices for things, and
Yeah.
and that there's a creator somewhere, right?
No, absolutely.
Um,
And the
yeah,
book's
I
so much
love it.
about ownership too, right? Like, so again, I think this book is pure for me because I was writing it for my children, right? And what I was trying to tell them is you can't, no matter what happens to you in your life, you need to own it, right? Don't be a
Yeah,
victim, because if you're a victim, you can't change that, right? So if you
right,
start off, and it's obviously, a very different concept, but it came to me and I'm thinking, wow. I mean, imagine if you did have to, pick your gender, right? And then pick your skin color, and then pick all these things that, there are biases and prejudices, and you actually picked it so that you could experience everything that comes with that.
right.
Uh, what a different perspective that is, right? And that's
Yeah.
how we get it started.
Yeah, and then it really made me think at an even higher level, especially
Right,
like as someone who meditates and
right,
believes in the higher things, and like, those times that I meditate, is this really what's going on? Is this that connection thing, right?
right,
But
right,
I
right,
think that not enough people really own things and realize that, we have to live out our truths and our reality and learn from it. We're
right,
all here to learn from those things. So this book, I think, is a nice thought process where you're reflecting upon, hey, what's really going on in my own
right.
life compared to this, which I really love too. Plus, it's a soulmate book too, so
It is, no, it is, and
I think we're
it's intended to connect people, right? I mean, it's
yeah,
for me. I spend a lot of time on character development, right? So I really do because I want you to, and I'm not going to say it's easy, but scene setting, dialogue, that all comes with with time and experience. But the character development's everything. Like if you think that you know who this person is, then obviously I've endeared that character too, even if you hate them, right? It's just you have a feeling toward them, right? And then it becomes real and relatable. And once that happens, you're not the only one in the boat, right? There's other people
right.
rowing with you. So it's just having that human connection and knowing that we're all connected.
Yeah, I love it. My little puppy's like hopping on me. In my
Nice.
rush to get my water, I
Yeah.
left the door cracked, so he might jump up here at some
That's
point.
all good. I love dogs.
Yeah, he's great. He's a little wiener dog, so
No,
and he's all up in everybody's business.
that's awesome. He's a
So we
boss.
do yeah, we do have some members here. So hello, Ramona and Leslie and Jamie. I know Jamie's been looking forward to this talk for quite a while. I was
Perfect.
doing some lives and she's like, "Is this Steve? Is Steve on tonight?" So
That's
um
awesome. Thank you. I
yeah,
appreciate
so
that.
that's exciting. So thank you for reading that. And you're going to give away a copy of the menu
I
tonight,
am
correct?
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
and
exciting.
however you wanna do it, Kristen, if you wanna run, like, a little contest or you just pick somebody
Yeah.
who's been on tonight and I just need their address, I'll sign it and get it sent to them.
Yeah, I'll totally do that. So a lot of times our members actually watch the recording of it afterwards. So what I'll
Yeah,
probably do is
perfect.
I'll give it a time frame and then I'll just run a randomizer through it for the people that comment in. So
Awesome. Awesome.
yeah, and Jamie's saying, "Oh my God, yay!" So
Awesome.
yeah. So of course, I'm a teacher. I've talked with you a little bit about that, and
Right.
so I'm going to switch gears a little bit because I really like the Young Reader series, and I bought this one, Halloween Tales,
Sure.
and for one, the cover is gorgeous.
Yeah,
But then I noticed you also have a Christmas one
I do.
as part of the Young Reader series. So, what made you shift gears from writing romance into some Young Reader books?
So my wife and I have 4 children. So she had a daughter. I had 2 sons, and then we came together, right? A second marriage, and we had a daughter together. So our daughter, Isabella, is like really, really big into theater and has been since she could walk. So I wrote while she was coming up in these different, children's theater companies. I ended up writing 2 Halloween stage plays, which is what you have in front of you right there, right? So I converted those
Yes.
into novella form, and then I did 3 holiday traditions, so for the Christmas type stuff. So
Right.
I mean, she's in college, she's in her second year of school, right? And I just was pulling stuff out of this trunk, right? And I'm like, wow, we had so much fun with it. It's kind of a pain in the backside, to be honest with you, right? To take a stage play and convert. It's
Right.
easy to go the other way, but
Go the other way.
I did it, and it's just a lot of fun, and I'm glad I did it because a lot of the kids that we had worked through, with through the years, have all
Right.
gotten copies. I've donated them to the library, and I love working with younger people and trying to inspire them to create whatever that means.
Yeah, that's pretty great. And I talk to my students all the time about well, we talk about books and writing in general. If you want to be an author, you can be an author.
Yes, absolutely.
Even if you're 8 and 9 years old, you can be
Right.
an author. And so we like
Absolutely.
getting authors in front of them because I know child authors. I have a couple that I've taught that just published books.
Right.
So
That's
if
wonderful.
you want to dream it, do it. Right.
Yes, I agree.
Um, I think that's fantastic. So you have Christmas, you have Halloween Tales. Are you gonna
Yeah.
write any for any other holidays?
I may. So, Paula and I, my wife, and I just have 2 granddaughters, right? So this is supposed to be a big secret, so I'm going to let everybody know. But I just wrote a children's story called "The Dragonfly and the Ladybug," and it's for the 2 little girls, right? So that'll be a gift for them. So that's something that came out. We did a book on autism called Perfect Chase, One
Mm,
Reflection of Autism, and close friends of ours have a son, with autism, and this is going back maybe 5 or 6 years. I see him drawing, and I said, "Oh, someday you and Uncle Steve are gonna write a book together." Everybody laughed, and we did,
and you did. Oh,
and,
fabulous.
and it was awesome. And I'll send you a copy of that as a
I
teacher.
would
I think
l
you'd appreciate
I
it.
would
Yes,
love that.
I'm gonna write that down.
I'm always trying to get diverse books into my classroom, and, I think I'm pretty blessed where I am that my students really are open-minded and
Okay,
accepting, and, they wanna spread that word, which is pretty great, and I think,
that's big.
more kids should be doing that. So
Absolutely.
if anybody has not read the Young Reader series, they're pretty great too.
Thank you.
And I actually brought this into school, and I'm like, "I have to bring it home. So sorry.
That's
I'm not leaving it in my classroom." I try to teach them good library skills, but
right, right.
I've
I
seen
get
in
it.
my classroom library, the books are well loved. So, like, yeah, sorry, I'll
That's
get you
cool.
a copy.
It's absolutely. I can
Um,
listen. I can send copies to your classroom, and
oh,
I'm
that
happy
would
to
be
do that as well.
wonderful.
Yeah.
That would be wonderful. So I'm gonna show, a comment here. So Leslie's asking, "How do you come up with the ideas for your books?"
All right. So great question, Leslie. Thank you. I think it's as much a curse as it is a blessing, right? So I have a lot more ideas than I have time left, right? And even I
Gotcha.
know that. So as the clock's ticking away, and I'm looking at my hourglass, I'm thinking, and I'm not trying to be dark by saying that, but I'm really cognizant of what I should do next because the average book takes about a year, right?
Right.
And to be honest with you, when you're writing a book, you basically live in a second life, right? The first thing I do when I finish a book is apologize to my wife. I take her out for dinner, right? Because I've been living in 2 different worlds at the
Right.
same time.
Yeah.
But the idea is for me, I write reality-based fiction. Um, I love the dysfunction in every family. I love when people are like, "Oh my God, I hate my family." You actually don't. You know what I mean?
Right.
You
Yep.
think you do, but you don't.
Yeah.
But again, anything to do with relationships. Like I wrote and I do a lot of love stories, and it's not always between a man and a woman, right? I wanted to write, and I'll give you an example. 10 years ago, I wanted to write a book on unconditional love. Does it even exist? And I wrote this
Right.
book called Goodnight Brian, and it was about a handicapped child and his grandmother. And basically, the kid goes to Boston, and He's having a lot of cognitive, difficulties, and the doctors tell, he's never going to walk, never going to talk, ride a bike, swim. And the grandmother steps up at about 4'11", right? She steps up and says, "You're full of it. He's going to do all those things." And she devotes herself to him for the rest of her life and really just, I mean, works on this kid like it's nobody's business, right? But to me,
Right.
that was a book of unconditional love. So I was drawn to that. But it's really about families. It's about
Right.
love, and it's really about like sharing, like giving back. Kindness is a big thing for me. I've walked some pretty dark roads. I spent almost 10 years working in the prison system as an
Oh,
investigator. Obviously, I spent some time overseas in a war zone. So
right.
for me, I don't have time or any patience for the darkness, right? For me, it's all about trying to shed that light.
And I think that's wonderful because in the world that we live in right now, that kindness has to be a huge message.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
love, and that, true love and even soulmates don't have to be romantic. They can be
Right.
your friends.
I agree.
We were just talking about this in the admin chat not that long ago, because we really feel like we are all meant to do this little bookish pen pal group together.
That's great.
And you should be telling your friends you love them more often.
Absolutely.
I don't think enough people do that, and especially not adults. We're taught to be these serious people who are in this professional job, and I think you know we need to get rid of that.
Yeah,
Adults
we
don't
do.
play enough, and we need to be telling people because time is borrowed. It's
Yeah.
not very long. So
Yeah.
what a great thing to think about. um all right, Jamie's saying, what book comes first? Are they standalone or in a series? What book should she start with?
Yeah, so great question, Jamie. Thank you. They have been all standalone until I hit the '80s series. So I've never written a sequel in 30 years, right? For me, that's like cheating on a fourth grade test, right?
Yeah.
Like you already have your characters developed, right? Everything, the scene settings there. So for me,
Right.
I always start fresh. What happened is I wrote Bread Bags and Bullies, right? So the backstory with this book is my dad 5 years ago passed away, and it was actually a beautiful experience. I was with him at the time in the ICU, holding his hand. And
Mm.
when he finally passed, I walked out of the hospital. I'm thinking, I am going to write him a book. I need to honor, right, everything that I am, who I
Yeah.
am because of my father.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, largely in part because of my father. But I'm thinking, all right, so it's not only going to be a thank you letter to my father. I want it to be a love letter to the '80s because my father. When I think about my childhood and coming up, it's almost like Ralphie and Randy, right, in A Christmas
Oh
Story,
yeah.
like just absolute madness. And I think most families are that way. So
Mhm.
anyway, this is a long way to answer your question, Jamie. But I write Bread Bags and Bullies, and I decide this is the winter of 1984. So if you know anything about New England, we had a massive blizzard in '78. I
Yep.
take the blizzard of '78, I move it up to '84, and I stick these kids, just complete mayhem in the house, right? And what I realized at the end of the book is, hey, listen, we had a great time, writing the book, but they were stuck in the house the whole time. So this
Mhm.
story needs more real estate. And what I did is I came up with, lawn dots and lemonade,
Yeah.
tackling the '80s, and this is them coming out of the house and going to cruise the Ave, going to the drive-in movie theaters, roller skating rinks, all the fun stuff that we did in the '80s, and we kind of break it out here. And what I love about these books, Kristen, right, is almost all my books have best-selling authors, all the endorsements on the covers and everything that you do. This doesn't have any writers in the book. What it has is '80s icons,
I
right?
love it.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it because I can remember watching MASH
Yes.
on my
Jamie.
black and white,
Right.
and I had to turn the dial to
Right.
watch it, and I would sneak it in my room
Right.
with
Right.
the antenna to try to get through the static, so I
Yeah.
love that you did that.
Yeah. I don't think and it was again a wink to my dad, right? Because for me, my father wouldn't have cared if there was, four New York Times bestsellers on the book. He
Yeah.
would have laughed if I got Greg Brady and Klinger from MASH and this, and when I did, I went after probably like 350 potential endorses, and I only needed a dozen, and I ended up
Right.
getting 45 on the first book, and then another
Um,
30 on the second. It's crazy. I mean, Corey Hart, Taylor Dane, just
yeah,
nuts.
that's fabulous.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was fun.
I just I this book, I'm this book is my life.
Right,
I was gonna annotate it, and I was like, "Yeah, I just can't,"
right.
because
That's
it's
funny.
all of it, and then I started thinking about, my childhood in small town Palmer, Massachusetts,
Right,
during
exactly.
that snowstorm even. I can remember jumping off the stair and going down.
Right, right, right. In a couple feet of snow. That's
Yeah,
great.
yeah, it was a blast. All right.
I love
Um,
it because it's relatable. There's been a lot of people that have come
totally.
to me, and I'm thinking, oh, New England, but I have readers out in Minnesota and Wisconsin who freeze their backsides in the winter too, right? And they'll
Yep.
say, we use bread bags too, right? We went through this,
Yep.
and it's the same thing. It's the corner store. It's all that iconic
Yes.
1980 stuff, which to me was probably the last age of innocence, right? It was before the
I
internet
think so.
and the
Yeah.
phones. I mean, if you wanted to go see your friend, you got on your bike, right, and you rode over
Yeah.
to their house. So
You got out of the house
it was a
and
different
you
time.
went home when the streetlights came on and,
Absolutely,
all
absolutely.
of that really great stuff.
Right,
Um, what I really love about your writing is that I feel like I'm in there. I feel like I know the characters, and even with this one, I was like, "Oh, I have friends that are doing that."
right.
I grew up where my stepsister or my half sister was in a different house, but when we were in the same house, this was us. This is my friend up the street and his
Right.
siblings,
Yeah,
like, we
the
all
mayhem.
experienced that, and I loved it, and
It's so cool.
I really think it was, like, the best childhood
I
too,
think no, I think so
you
too. And
know?
I got to tell you, these were easy. I mean, they easy is a funny word, but these books
Right,
probably 5, 6 months, to pump them out, right? Because most of it was based on, memories, right? But
right,
what helps me is I have the imagination of an 8-year-old child. You know what I mean? So I believe it. Like everything, I internalize it so much that I believe it. So when I'm telling the story, even though I'm writing fiction, I'm
right,
writing it like this story actually happened. And I've had so many people come up to me and say, is this based on well, everything's based on
right,
your experiences. But
right.
yeah, I made up most of it. So
Do you ever come out of writing and look at the world around you and go, "Okay, so what's going on?"
yeah.
Like,
Oh yeah,
totally different
absolutely.
world, right?
Absolutely. And I'm gonna tell you, that's one of the, right now in my office downstairs, and it's all set up with 30 years of writing memorabilia. It's just, but I have to be really, really conscious of the fact that I don't drift away, right? Like I need to be
Right,
part of reality the way everybody else knows it. Because my happy place is writing. Is
right.
being that 8-year-old kid where I imagine these things and I
Yeah,
put it all together. But you can slip away from reality if you're not
totally.
aware of it. Yeah.
Do you have a time of day, that you like writing the most?
I like writing late at night, right? And there's a lot of creators, people who create that say the energy's a little bit different. And I think that's probably true. Like again, I'm a man of faith. I'm a very spiritual person. Like I'll sit here in like an antenna, right? And people are like, oh, where do your ideas come from? I don't know if
Mhm.
I can tell you that, to be honest with you. They just come and then I take them in and then I cultivate them. And it's, taken me 30 years to work on my craft. But I love writing at night because there's no distractions. And again, I think the energy's a little bit different.
I think so too. How do you keep track of all your ideas? Do you journal it? Do you plotline it? Do you
Yeah,
keep
I
it
do
in,
storyboards. Yeah, I used to be, everything but the kitchen sink, and then I started working with this gentleman who was like, Steve, we're not going to change the way you write, but we're going to change the way that the process, right, to become more
yeah.
efficient. And by learning that, I've been able to put out a book a year for the last 15 years.
That's pretty fabulous, and they're all award-winning and
Yeah,
national bestsellers, and the really cool thing is that I haven't really brought this up yet, but Bread Bags and Bullies is going to be a movie,
it is. Yeah,
produced by Eric Estrada.
right,
So,
right.
I mean, 80s icon right there,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. He's a
Chips
gentleman.
and
Absolutely.
yeah, so how did that come about?
So I ended up, I wrote a story called The Thursday Night Club, right?
Yep,
And I wrote this maybe 4 or 5 years ago. We're out on vacation in Martha's Vineyard. I spent one day writing this novella for 14 hours. I came over on the ferry. My family was going to come over the next day. So basically, I'm crashing in the car that night, but I had to
right.
get the car over. So I spent literally, Chris, in 14 hours, in the park in Oak Bluffs, Martha's Vineyard, writing
God.
this story. And it's about Christmas, right? And it's the middle of
Yep,
August. The seagulls are screeching, and here I am writing about snow. And
yeah,
I don't think anything of it. The book, it ends up coming out with two other novellas, so we put the three together, and it's called The Thursday Night Club. 2 years later, I get a call saying, "Hey, they want to do the audio podcast drama." So basically, episodic radio, like old school radio,
right.
6 episodes. What I love about it is it's free, right? All the ads pay for it. And oh, by the way, Kathleen Turner is going to be the voice of the angel, right? So I'm like, Kathleen Turner. So it just, Kathleen Turner, it sounds like she smoked a sheep, right? And she's the angel, and it's just incredible. I mean, absolutely incredible.
Right,
And the cool part is, and again, long answer, but 2 years after that, they say, "Hey, we want to do the movie." So they filmed the movie in Torrington, Connecticut. Gloria Gaynor, if you remember her.
I
And
do.
yeah, she did survive, and she ends up in the movie as the doctor. And I actually appear in the movie real briefly with my daughter, who sings on two of the tracks, which was
Oh,
really awesome.
that's great.
So that production company starts doing this series called Divine Renovations with Eric Estrada. And I'm coming home one day from Boston, and my phone's ringing off the hook, but I'm on the highway, so I won't pick it up. Here I am screaming at my kids, "Don't look at your phone!" And then I glance down, and it says, "Hey, you need to pick up your phone." So I pull over, and it's the producer from North Carolina, and he said, "I got somebody here who wants to talk to you," and it's Eric Estrada. And we spent a couple, maybe a few minutes together, and then he said, "Hey, come meet me in Torrington," and I did the following week, and we spent about 3 hours together. I had lunch with him, and it was so cool because he was talking about, when we think Eric Estrada, you think Chips, right? John
Yeah,
and Conch, and
yeah.
he's 75 years old now, right?
That in itself is mind blowing,
Right,
like,
right,
I mean, they're not supposed to be that old because
right,
one, we're not that old and the
right.
80s were yesterday.
Yeah, exactly. But he still looks fantastic, and
Yeah.
he's just a really good guy. So he says to me, "What part could I play in the movie?" And I said, "Well, there's a corner store owner where the kids go in. So one of the kids, shoplifts, another kid does it, But
Yep.
back in the 80s, you could get kicked in the behind from somebody trying to teach you other than your parents, and that was okay, right? So he's going to be the corner store owner, and I ended up rewriting. So I wrote both scripts already, and I rewrote one of them just so it fits him very well. So I'm
Right,
excited. We're waiting for COVID protocols. Obviously, the
right,
writers' strike. We weren't going to do anything during the
yeah,
writers' strike. I wouldn't do that.
right.
But it looks like we're going to round the corner, so we'll see what
That's
happens.
exciting. You'll have
Yeah,
to keep me posted.
I will.
My bucket list is to be, to crash a movie set, watch a movie being made.
Yes,
I'll be searching
I'll let you
Connecticut
know.
for you.
I'll let you know.
That would be so much fun.
Yeah, we'll get you on as
Because
an extra.
I think I read somewhere that it's going to be filmed in Connecticut, correct?
Yes, yeah, it is because the
Oh,
town they've established a foundation out there. But the cool part is when I let you know if you come down, right? If we, as long as we sync up,
yeah.
we'll get you in the film as an extra. It'd be fun.
Oh, so fun.
Yeah.
So fun. I can't even wait because I wanna see them, like, fighting at the beginning about the bully, and I don't wanna tell any spoilers, but I'm
Right,
just
right,
like,
right.
"Oh god." Like,
Yeah.
these are things I talk to about my kids in class,
Right.
and, like, "You guys have no idea how the '80s were."
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it was
You know?
survival.
I know,
Survival.
I totally was. Oh, here's a small world sidetrack story for you. So, my girlfriend and I were talking about all the things we have in common, and we met by chance. And she tells me, one of her ex family members was my high school bully.
Really?
She was married into that family.
Oh my God.
I was like, "Are you kidding me?"
Yeah. Yeah.
And her daughter's like, "Oh yeah."
Wow.
I was like, "How does that happen in the world?" Talk about things being connected to each
Yeah.
other,
Right.
right?
Absolutely. It's a
Yeah,
small
like,
world for
they
sure.
totally are, and
It's not crazy.
soulmate-wise, when you realize, you met your soulmate, and then all these things start intertwining, and you're like, "Wow, you have a
Yeah.
connection here and here and here," and even the street I live on, there's a connection that she has with my street. It's
Right.
fascinating the
I
way that
love that
that
you said
works
that,
in the
Krista,
world.
because I'll tell you, the older I get, the more it's easier to look back and be able to connect the dots, right? So for so many years, I was like, why?
Yeah,
Why would this happen? Why did I have to go through this? And and now you look back and you're like, I couldn't be here tonight with you and
yeah,
your audience if I didn't go through some of those things. So you start
right,
to connect the dots, and then if you don't have faith after that, then you're never going to have it, right? Because
right,
I really believe at this point in my life, like I'm on the bus, I'm just not driving. I used to think I was
yeah.
driving the bus. I don't think so anymore. I'm just
Yeah, we're
not.
not
Yeah,
driving,
yeah,
and everything happens for a reason, we just have to
absolutely.
figure out the why.
Yeah,
Which is
exactly.
really cool. So I'm so glad you're up for this because I tried to curb myself because we're gonna play a little bit of 80s Would You Rather, and I have to
Okay,
tell you that my girlfriend and I had a lot of fun with this.
good, excellent.
um, and then because I got a couple books and I was searching the net, and I mean I already my own ideas anyway because I lived through it. But then she was like, Kristen, why didn't you ask me that question? And we got into this whole thing. Super fun.
Good,
So,
good, good.
ready?
I
Here we
am.
go.
I hope
And
I
then
am.
tonight, we're talking about Columbia House because I tagged it in your book, and I'm like, no,
Oh
no,
my
I got
God.
10. I have 10 questions,
Yeah.
maybe 11 or 12. Here we go.
Good.
All right, everybody, are you ready? Would you rather 80s edition? with Kristen and Steve. All right. Would you rather spend all your quarters at the arcade playing Donkey Kong or Street Fighter?
Oh, wow. So for me, it would be Donkey Kong. And it would be because I grew up on the side of a Cumberland Farms, right? And they had one arcade game in there, and it was Donkey Kong. And most of my paper route money got dumped in there. So
Did you have to go back in and replay if your score wasn't high enough?
yeah, absolutely. And I grew up with two maniac brothers, so we were competing against each other. And whoever
Over
owned the
others.
machine would, loved us. That's for sure.
That's awesome. The Manchester brothers,
Yeah, so
fighting over
great,
it again. Get out.
crazy.
I love it. All right. Would you rather live inside the Goonies movie or the Princess Bride?
The Goonies movie.
Me
Yeah,
too.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, I mean, anytime I see that on, and my kids are like, "This movie is terrible, mom," and I'm like, "No, it's not.
Well, it's iconic, right?
It's the best movie
Yeah,
out there.
right,
It's the
right.
best." Yeah, Goonies for me too.
Goonies.
All right. So would you rather go back in time to hang out with Bill and Ted or the guys from Weird Science?
Oh wow. Probably Weird Science. And the reason I say that is, what was his name? Thomas Dolby. Remember that? She blinded me with science.
Yes.
So he's actually a professor out in Connecticut. And I got to tell you, this is so cool. And I only know it because he endorsed one of the books. But I talked to him on the phone, and that one song has sustained him for 40 years.
Yeah.
Just one. It was a one-hit wonder, you know what I mean? But I would love
Yeah.
to I would love to see him as a younger guy and talk to him.
It would be cool. You should have
Yeah,
that song in the movie somewhere.
Thomas Dolby. Yeah.
That's awesome. All right. Would you rather listen to Casey Kasem in the weekly top 40 or
Mhm.
watch Saturday morning cartoons?
Oh my god. How do you how do you how do you pick?
I know, right?
And you know what's so funny? As soon as you said Casey Kasem, I'm like, there's nothing that's gonna touch that, right? But I gotta go
I
with the
don't
cartoons.
know.
I gotta go with the cartoons. I do.
I mean, the cartoons, and
Yeah.
I don't think they can show them anymore. They're probably not politically correct
Right.
anymore.
They're
You
violent.
know,
Yeah, right.
very violent, Wile E.
Yeah,
Coyote,
yeah.
and
Popeye and all them
Mighty
old.
Mouse, and
Yeah.
I loved
That was
those.
awesome. Yeah, remember
And
that? Eating cold cereal out of a big pail and just watching these cartoons.
so I had a problem with that because I hate cereal.
Oh, really?
So my mother would try every kind. I don't like the milk. I don't like it when it gets soggy. So I would
Gotcha.
have dry cereal, or
Yeah, right.
I would I would have like everything under the sun. She'd be like, "Try cauliflower," and I'm like, No, cauliflower and
No,
dip for
that's
breakfast.
not yeah, that's not like
That's
Honeycomb
not it.
Hideout. Right, right.
But I can remember she's like, "You need to eat your cereal," and I'm like, "I don't like cereal."
That's funny.
I do like it now as an adult without milk. It
Right.
just tastes better.
Yeah,
Although I
yeah.
think I like Rice Puffs or something with sugar. Too funny. All right,
Check.
next one.
That's funny.
Would you rather meet David Bowie or Michael Jackson in the 80s?
I'm gonna say David Bowie.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna choose Michael Jackson on this
right,
one.
right, right. And he
I
was
was
incredibly talented, right? I mean,
Well, they both are
yeah,
really,
yeah, yeah.
were. I was supposed to see Michael Jackson in concert, and I got chicken pox,
Really?
so I was
That's a
bummed about that.
that's a bummer. Yeah.
I would totally, go back in the DeLorean so I could go to that,
The
you know?
DeLorean.
Alright, would you rather be a main character in, ready, Stand By Me or The Outsiders?
Oh, wow. I'm gonna go with Stand By Me because I'm a huge Stephen King fan. I love the premise of it,
Me
and I
too.
think some of my work kinda, leans toward that, so I love
Yeah,
Stand By Me.
Stand By Me is
I mean, they're both
wonderful.
great movies, though.
Fantastic, and,
Yeah,
I was talking to this one with about this question with my girlfriend, and she's like, "Yeah, I don't know, The Outsiders is such a dark movie," and I'm like, "Well, I wouldn't wanna be in that one because the main character dies."
right,
And she's like, "What? Don't say that. Don't
right,
don't say that that happened," and I was like, "But it did."
right.
Like,
That's true.
and Stand By Me is this I mean, they're both about friendships and those
Yeah.
sorts of things, but Stand By Me is just classic. I'd be there too. Alright, would you rather drink Tang or Kool-Aid?
Mm. I would say Kool-Aid, and not the way my mother made it, right? Because it was too diluted, but, Regular Kool-Aid, I love, but I'll tell you, I like Tang as well, and the whole astronaut thing was really cool, right?
My mom would not buy either one, and I loved Kool-Aid. What flavor
Really?
Kool-Aid did you drink?
Cherry, grape, whatever my mother bought. But we again, I grew up so the Tupperware tumbler with those colored,
Yep, with the pop top thing that
oh
you had to
my
push
god,
down,
yeah. And my
and if
mother
you
would
didn't get
make
all the
it
way in.
right, put it in the fridge, and then 2 hours later, it's gone, absolutely
Yeah,
gone. It's time to make another batch.
yeah, I love Kool-Aid. I
Yeah,
always drank it at my friend's house because my mom wouldn't buy it.
that's
Sorry,
awesome.
mom, if you're watching this. Okay, the last 3 are hard too. Ready?
Mm.
Would you rather have Mr. Miyagi as a mentor or Doc from Back to the Future?
Oh wow, I'm gonna say Mr. Miyagi.
Wax on, wax
Yeah,
off.
yeah, he was just a cool cat, right?
He really was, and I
Yeah.
think even as he got older, still cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I still want if that's on, I'll still watch that movie
Yep, me too.
at any point in time.
Yeah, and isn't it funny that Back to the Future we thought was really gonna happen?
Right.
Like,
Right.
and hoverboards are not what they are in the movie,
Right.
Definitely not, and I don't know that I'd wanna go back in time. Like,
No. No, I don't think
things
so.
change too much,
Right.
I wouldn't wanna alter it. Alright, would you rather be a member of the A-Team or Knight Rider?
Oh my god. Every one of these is fantastic. So I loved the A-Team, but Kit,
Mhm.
the car and Knight Rider,
Yes.
I'd like to be in that thing, right? So I'm gonna say Knight Rider.
I think you can actually go see it at,
Yeah,
like, Comic-Con somewhere.
yeah, that
I
would be
think I've
awesome.
seen that. Yeah,
Yeah,
that one's hard, and I think I choose Knight Rider too.
right. I like Kit a
Alright.
lot better than, David Hasselhoff, though, right? I like
Ye
Kit better, so
yeah, with his curly hair mullet,
yeah,
and,
all set.
those are coming back.
Right. The mullet,
A
bringing it
mullet.
back.
They are. I've gone to a lot of concerts, from the summer up to now and trying to see some of these '80s icons like Boy
Yeah,
George and Culture Club.
right.
Fabulous concert. Gladys Knight, we saw the Pointer Sisters not that long ago.
Wow, that's
Looking
fantastic.
around, lots of mullets.
That's some yeah, the mullet's happening. It's good to be doing
Yeah.
that though, right? I got a buddy that's all over the place, and he's telling me because he goes on these '80s cruises, Krista, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And he says, "Thank God I'm doing it." Billy Ocean, all of them. He said because they're
Right.
getting a lot older, right? So you don't
They
know when you're
are.
gonna be able to see them, if you will,
Well, I gotta tell you, like, Boy George and Culture Club with Berlin and Howard Jones.
Oh wow,
We sat there
Berlin.
and I was like, "Okay, I know I'm 52. I know this is 2023, but where am I?"
Yeah,
Because it was really trippy.
wow,
Like, didn't quite look the same, but
right.
sounded the
Sounded this, yeah,
same.
yeah.
Right
Brought you
back
right
to
back.
right back to my little town of Palmer in my
That's
little
fantastic.
room.
That's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Very, very cool. Saw Richard Marx this summer too. I
Oh
mean,
wow,
another one
yeah,
from the '80s. Like, we tried really hard to see a lot of those icons.
good for you.
All right, couple more.
Mm.
Would you rather star in Miami Vice or Dukes of Hazzard?
You know what? I'm gonna say
Uh,
Dukes of Hazzard. Even though Miami Vice to me was just amazing, but it was like unattainable when I was a kid. It was like, yeah, that's not Dukes of Hazzard. It looked kind of like my town, right? We're trying to jump stuff and
yep.
get chased by
And
the sheriff. But
oh,
yeah,
yeah. Oh, yeah, and totally, like, my mom had a Nissan Maxima that talked. I called her Helen,
oh my
and
god,
we used to race some guy from the other town over the back hills.
yeah,
Never told her about it until, like, way later on in life, and that's just something we did. We weren't afraid
right,
of anything, so Dukes
right.
of Hazzard, it would be it for me.
Dukes of Hazzard.
Yeah, so this is a new one for tonight, because we were talking about this at dinner. So, what was your favorite catalog to shop out of at Christmas? Radio Shack or Sears?
Sears.
Me too. It
Yeah, I
was like
wasn't.
yes,
Yeah, that thick, right? And we were circling it, right? And I got
circle
to
it.
tell you, it's
Yes.
so funny that my younger brother, right? So he puts together the Santa Claus wish list, right? And then 4 months later finds the catalog. Everything that he had circled was wrapped under the tree, right? And then
Oh,
there were questions.
yeah.
There were questions.
I remember sitting with my cousin and going through all of them, and the Sears was the best because it was huge.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And you were like, "Oh, can we go to the store and check this out?" but the most disappointing thing is you'd get these things and then they'd kind of fall apart
Yeah, oh, yeah. It was all junk. Right.
because it was the 80s,
Yeah, yeah. Junk.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh gosh. Well, did one last thing.
Yeah,
Did you shop from Columbia House Records?
I did
Did you get
multiple
the blind
times.
pen? Yeah, because that
Multiple
was a
times.
thing too,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Which
Yeah,
what name could we put under? Do you
right.
think they'd notice if we had 2 subscriptions?
It was so fun, and I never understood how that because obviously, they were expensive when you had to buy those 3 or 4.
Yeah.
So that was like, "Oh my god, I gotta come up with the money for that." But my younger brother had RCA, so he had the RCA one, I had the Columbia one. Then we flipped, but we
Flip.
would just fill I mean, at the time and I wish they had been albums that I kept, but I ended up at the
Yeah.
time buying all the cassettes, right? And I'll tell you, years later, Kristen, right? I love the sounds of vinyl now. I really do. But I have to
Oh, me
buy
too.
back all the stuff I've already
Yeah,
bought.
yeah.
It's crazy.
I think back, I'm like, "Where did all that go?"
Yeah.
Like, I still have a few 45s. I
Oh,
have,
good.
Sister Christian.
Oh, wow. Night
I
Ranger.
have, yeah, Night Ranger,
Great stuff.
Madonna's True Blue
Yeah.
on blue vinyl,
Yeah. Good for you.
awesome one, and, Motley Crue, "Smoking in the
Oh,
Boys' Room."
there you go.
Those are the 3 that I will keep until I'm,
Right.
old and can't remember who they are anymore
Yeah.
and
Right.
have to listen to them on repeat, because they bring me right back, which is
That's
pretty
awesome. And
fabulous,
I'll tell you, when I
so
was writing these books, I was doing like soundtracks. I was in the 80s. I was watching 80s
mhm,
shows, the movies, and like
yep,
1984 alone, if you looked at what came out, it was like Karate Kid, like,
yeah,
Raiders of the Lost Ark. It was all these huge films that came out. And then you start looking at the soundtracks, and it was like, oh my God, I loved it. I loved it. The whole
me
time I
too.
was writing these books, I was in the 80s.
Yeah, I still am, I listen to that music all the
Right.
time.
I do too.
Yeah.
Hey, now we're on the oldies channel, right? Like it's
Oh,
how do we get
oh
to the
gosh.
oldies?
I
It's
know, I
crazy.
know. I'll never forget when my son said to me, "Mom, have you ever heard of the group Van Halen?"
Oh my god. Yes,
I'm
I
like, "Are
have.
you kidding me?"
Yes, I have.
Yeah, I think my first concert was AC/DC in
Oh my god.
Hartford.
Yeah, the Back in Black album.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's unbelievable.
What was your
Awesome.
first concert you ever went to?
My first one was, Led Zeppelin, so I was really, really
Oh,
lucky to see them.
nice.
Yeah, and then but the funny part was I liked all of the music, right? Like, I liked the big hair bands, I liked the metal, I liked all of it, you know what I mean? So we were all over the place, and I had a buddy that I rode with at the time. I don't know if you remember, like, hip hop was just starting to come out, right? Like,
Yeah,
White Lines and all that stuff,
yep.
and we went to a show in Providence, and I was like, "This seems really dangerous." Like, and it was, like, all the young hip hop, like,
Yep,
rappers just being born, and I'm so
yep.
happy we went to see it, but it was fun, so
Yeah,
fun.
I can remember my dance studio, gave breakdancing lessons,
Oh, wow.
and I was like, "Yeah, I'm not made for that."
Yeah, no, no. That was
Um
impressive to watch it, though.
Oh, it really was. I
Yeah,
used to, do photography in high school, and I
okay.
was on yearbook, and journalism major and all that stuff, and I used to go to downtown Springfield when it was not good to go down there,
Right.
and watch these kids do this
Okay.
stuff and
Right,
take pictures of them, and I was down there often enough without telling my mom, sorry,
right.
mom, that they got to know me, and they would do all these poses, and I never could understand how they did it.
I know, it's amazing. Remember just a
Yes.
sheet of cardboard and they'd be, spinning on their
Yeah,
heads?
on their heads and not
Yeah,
breaking anything. Now,
crazy.
if we tried that, forget it.
Yeah, that's done now. It's funny, Chris, when I released, Bread Bags and Bullies, we did it from a roller skating rink, right? So
Yeah.
I invited a couple hundred people, and most of
Um,
them, our age and who haven't skated since they were, like, 18 years old. So we had 4 major injuries. There was actually a concussion.
oh, oh
Somebody
no!
broke half their tooth. I laughed the whole night, right? And it was all 80s music, right? And
That's
people are whipping
awesome.
around the rink, and I'm like, "Somebody's not gonna work tomorrow." Like,
Oh, how fun.
yeah, it was fun.
Movie premiere night should be something like that,
Yeah,
watch party
exactly.
at a skating rink. How
Oh my god.
fun. That's a
Yeah,
blast.
it's awesome.
Well, it was fabulous talking with you. It's getting on the later side here in the East
Yeah.
Coast, and we are in our well, I won't say
Yeah,
late
right.
50s because we're not, early 50s.
Right, right, early.
But, it got dark hours ago for us.
Isn't it crazy? It's awful.
Yes. I don't
5:30 was
understand.
dark.
It
Nuts.
was. But what's funny is I used to dread winter, and all of a sudden I'm like, "Wow, it's dark out," and I still have, like, 4 hours till bedtime.
Right. I
And then I'm
know.
like, "Wait, bedtime's at 9:30? That's not okay."
So true.
I know.
How did that happen, right?
I don't even know. So, for everybody watching and then watching the recording, like, go out and buy Steve's books because they
Thank you.
are amazing. And this one, cannot wait to see on the screen. And I can't wait to read Lawn Darts because that's next.
Awesome.
I
Thank
had
you.
so much fun reading this one, and I look forward to getting your books in for my students and our
I will. I'm
students.
gonna
So
send them to you. Absolutely.
fantastic. And
Yeah.
um, so I don't see any other questions. I don't see any other questions in the chat. I think I got everybody. Um, oh, Cookie Crisp cereal was Leslie's go-to.
Cookie Crisp. That's
You
awesome.
remember Cookie Crisp?
I
So,
do.
I didn't eat cereal, and my mom even bought me that one, and I liked that one dry.
Cookie
So,
Crisp.
Cookie
Classic.
Crisp,
Right.
total classic. My kids for breakfast still get Lucky Charms,
Oh, yeah.
for their morning breakfast, and I don't like the cereal part, I like the marshmallow.
The marshmallows. Yeah.
So
That's
if they
it.
don't wanna eat it and they leave it up top of their cubbies, I'm like, "Oh, yay, snack for me for later."
Marsh marshmallow time.
Yeah, and they're dry and chalky and horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, right back to childhood, love it. Anyway, so fun talking with you, I hope we have
I
you
had a
back
great time.
on.
Oh, anytime you want. I've really
Yeah,
enjoyed this. I really
would
have.
be awesome.
Fun.
Thank you so much, and I'll email you,
Yes, please do.
addresses and then who the winner is and all of that
Awesome.
good stuff, and then I'll also, because we have a YouTube, channel for Bookish Pen Pals, so I'll also send you the link for the recording,
Good.
and you can spread it all
And
over
I'll
the
share it
world
to yeah, I'll
too.
share it with my people.
Yeah,
Good. That's awesome.
fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank
I
you,
had a
Kristen.
fabulous time.
Thank you. I did too. I really did. I appreciate it.
All right, have a great night.
You
Bye,
do the same.
everybody.
Take care.